Hello and welcome back to another episode of Indie Author Book Club, where I review indie books and help to spread the word. In this episode I'm going to be reviewing Maiden of Artemis by Eloise Bahr, which is a tale set in Greek mythology. So if you are a Greek mythology enthusiast like I am, stick around and you'll get my review. Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you've not been here before, my name is Tracy Mayhew and I write contemporary romances set here in the UK and YA fantasy fiction. So in today's episode, like I said in the introduction, I will be reviewing Maiden of Artemis by Eloise Bahr. Now, as I said, it is a tale of Greek mythology. It tells a story of the Amazons, and yeah, I really enjoyed this book, I must admit. The first few chapters opens with Atrera's, our main character's, life as a slave. And to be honest, I wasn't sure that I was going to like Atrera at first, just because she seemed quite passive. But then as I started getting into the book and started getting into Atrera's character more, I kind of thought, that makes sense because she's a slave. She spent her whole life as a slave. She's not used to kind of thinking and doing things off her own back and with her own initiative. So actually, I didn't mind that in the end. But something happens to her quite early on in the story that kind of pushes her into the story, and she has to kind of take charge. She has to run with what she's been given. She has to deal with the blows that she's been dealt. And in my opinion, that really makes her be a stronger character in the end. Like, she just rolls with the punches in the end. Everything that happens to her, she deals with. And she deals with it in such a way that strengthens her character. At times, she can appear to be a little bit naive, a little bit too naive for me. But really, when you think about her life as a slave before, it kind of makes sense that she does have that naivety still, and actually I think that kind of endears her to the reader. Now, a big part of my love of Greek mythology for me personally are the Greek gods. I loved reading about them as a kid. I loved learning about them, and even as a teacher now, I love teaching about them as well. So when we do Greek mythology in school, I love talking about the gods and the goddesses. So I was really, really pleased when the gods and the goddesses featured in this. We see Artemis, we see Athena, and we see Ares more than any of the other gods. And I really like the portrayal of each of them. Eloise has crafted them in such a way that they each have their own personality. I personally have a soft spot for Artemis. She's always been one of my favourite Greek goddesses, and that didn't change. In fact, one of my favourite scenes, which I'll talk about later, is when Atrera meets Artemis for the first time. And I just really loved the way that Eloise made these gods seem just as much part of the story as the main mortal characters were. One of my favourite main characters, though, I have to say, was Lysandra. She is really acerbic. She says things without worrying about whether it's going to hurt someone. She's like the truth bomb in the story a lot of the time. And a lot of the time I found myself thinking, yeah, she's actually making sense. I really liked what she was saying. I really liked her as a character. Another one of my favourite characters was Thea, who is kind of like a mother figure to Atrera. I really liked her. Again, she is someone who wasn't backwards in coming forwards when things needed to be said or done. Thea was usually the one doing it, and I really liked that as well. And as I say, she made a lovely mother figure to Atrera, and she kind of needed that constancy in her life, because despite the fact that she goes on this quest and she meets new friends along the way, she doesn't always get on with them 100% of the time. So having that constancy in her life, kind of that person that she was always drawn to, that she was always seeking advice from and comfort from, it was nice to have that relationship in there. And just for Atrera's sake, really, being alone most of her life, she kind of had that dependency with Thea that I really found endearing. As I mentioned earlier, one of my favourite scenes in the book came quite early on, where Atrera meets Artemis for the first time. I really like the description of that. I really like the initial description of Artemis and the way that she speaks to Atrera and their kind of relationship and the way it gets started. I also like the description of nymphs and dryads. It was just really, really good and really immersive. I also enjoyed the scenes where mythical creatures started to creep in. Don't get me wrong, there isn't an abundance of mythical creatures, but there's a couple of scenes where they come in, and it was just like having the gods in there. It was good to see those elements of fantasy being drawn in as well. It really appealed to my fantasy loving side. One niggle that I did have with the story, though, was some of the modern phrases, especially when the characters were talking, kind of felt a bit jarring and kind of jarred me out of the story a little bit. It's not enough for it to really affect my enjoyment overall, but if I had to pick something that was a bit niggly for me, that would probably be it. It was just that once I was immersed, and then they used a turn of phrase that we would use today, it kind of was a bit like, whoa, I'm not in that moment anymore. I'm not in that scene. So that is the only thing I can say that was really something that I picked up on, that I kind of thought, I wish that wasn't in there. But it, as I say, it did not affect my overall enjoyment of the story, and the fact that I'm here recommending this book to you speaks volumes. So. And lastly, the main thing that I really appreciated about this story was the fact that it was, the language wasn't so flowery. I have picked up so many Greek, even Viking retellings, and it's kind of like just been a lot of flowery language that doesn't seem very accessible to me. But this was very straightforward. It was very accessible, and I really enjoyed it because of that. I really appreciated that. So thank you, Eloise, for writing a straightforward Greek mythology retelling. And as I say, Eloise's writing was very straight to the point, no fluff, and kept me engaged the whole time. So I would definitely recommend Maiden of Artemis for anyone who's interested in Greek mythology, mythology in general, or even a little bit of fantasy and romantasy. I think you would enjoy this book as well. There will be a second. I think Eloise is working on a second, so I can't wait to read that and then bring you a review about that as well. But that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this review of Maiden of Artemis. I will leave the link for the book down below with all my other details under this video in the description box. So that's it for this video. Next week I will be bringing you another behind the writing desk update about where I am with Bellanotte and the progress that I've been making on that. So until then, I hope you have a really good week, and I will see you later. Bye.